Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Mind Muscle Connection podcast. Today is a solo episode, and I have a topic I want to dive into about building muscle and how it's brutally slow, and even when you do everything right. And again, most people either half-ass it or they give up before they ever see real progress. And so I want to talk about that in more detail. But first, if you are interested in learning more about body recomp, what it is, how to do it, why it's important, different types of body recomp, and then the 10 most important things for body recomp, then my free checklist is for you. The link to that is in the show notes. Let me know if you have any questions on it. But again, it's completely free and you can just click the link in the show notes and you have it. So with that out of the way, let's dive into today's topic. So what I want to talk about again is how building muscle it's just brutally slow. There's no way around it. And this goes for even if you are doing everything right, it's still not going to be a super quick process. Now, the less muscle we have, the newer we are to training, the longer maybe we had a break, it is going to be a little bit quicker, but it's still never going to be this instant gratification there. It's just going to take some time. But the problem is most people don't push hard enough or give it enough time to see progress. And this leads to people spinning their wheels long term. Because again, I get it. We're putting in the work. We want to see our results right away there. And again, this really comes down to, I also feel like this is where chasing the scale weight can become problematic for people, because if we're chasing scale weight when it comes to building muscle, again, you're going to be super disappointed. It's going to be a lot of staying around the same. And when you start to just chase scale weight going up, that's not going to be muscle, right? So again, this really ultimately comes back to people chase the scale for the way down. Again, that's going to be a little bit quicker of a process, and I'll talk about that, but chasing that scale weight on the way up is going to be a recipe for disaster. And it's going to be really hard to notice change over the short term when it comes to building muscle. Like, we have to zoom out. And so again, you can see now where people start to spin their wheels with this, and they go back and forth between cutting or cutting for too long there. And I'm going to also, I think this is a good time to let you know too, at the end of the day, so again, building muscle is a slow process. So if you're someone who's keeping your weight around the same, maybe you're slowly seeing it trend up over time, and you're wondering why you're not seeing a ton of like physical changes or appearance changes, it's because again, it's a super slow process. Where you're ultimately going to see the quickest results in terms of your physique is going to be dropping some body weight and losing body fat. That's where you're really going to see quicker results and see things change more rapidly. But that's not going to be the best place for people to go all the time. And we do need to make sure we're in a good spot overall to get there. Otherwise, things may be a little bit slower, and there may just be a little bit more resistance overall there. And if you're already lean on the leaner side, that's not going to be the route for you. We're talking people here that are 10, 20 plus pounds overweight. Maybe they haven't, like, their weight stayed the same for an extended period of time. And again, you're not like, if you're somewhat lean, okay, again, that may be like for you, if you're on the leaner side, like you don't have a lot of weight to lose, trying to drop weight may not be what you need to do right this second. You may need to get closer maintenance. But really what I'm bringing this up is because I'll see people that they hear body recomp, and so they're like, their weight doesn't ever change, and then they're like, why am I not seeing a ton of change? And part of it is just because of the fact that muscle's slow and it's just really hard to see. So that's really what I'm trying to get at here. But in saying that, because of that, this is where people start to again spin their wheels and end up spending too much time just trying to drop weight and or pushing their scale weight up, when again, that's not going to be everything there. But again, the quickest way to see results is by dropping body fat. But again, that's not for everybody. Not everyone's going to respond super well to that because they don't have habits in place. So we do need to make sure that's in check. But to come back to the main topic today, it's building muscle is super slow. And again, most people, even if you're doing everything right, but the problem is most people don't do everything right. And so they make this process even slower than what it needs to be. So we can speed things up a little bit by being at maintenance, by doing these things, and or a small surplus, but we need to make sure we're doing these things. And also just, again, understanding that at the end of the day, it's a slow process, and it's going to be much slower to see that physical change in a short amount of time approach. The goal ultimately with all my clients is, hey, let's get you in a good spot from a habit standpoint, make sure your overall metabolism is in a good spot for you, and make sure that we are adding a little bit of muscle in this process. And then that way, now your fat loss phases are going to be more effective and efficient. What we don't want to do is just come straight in. Hey, Jeff said the quickest way to look better is by dropping weight and losing body fat. And then you start to try to drop body fat on poor habits. You're not weight training. Your sleep's terrible. Your nutrition you're just tracking calories, not really focused on what you're eating. You're just trying to hit calories. That's where people end up spinning their wheels. Like, you're not in a good spot. So we do need to make sure we are in a good spot as well too. So there is like a toll price basically that you have to pay before going into fat loss. So anyways, all right. So half-assing it. So this is the first one. Okay. So one of the reasons why people don't see change as much, and especially when it comes to building muscle, is because they half-ass it. So what I mean by that is during training, not being focused during your training. So your mind is elsewhere. You're thinking about other exercises you could be doing. You're thinking about other workouts you could be doing. You're like, is this effective? Why am I not seeing the change I want? But again, it could be you're more focused on what other people are doing in the gym, whatever it may be. You're not focused during your training. And because of that, you're not really able to push yourself as much as you could. And again, we know that we want to make sure that when it comes to building muscle, we are training close enough to failure and need to make sure it's somewhat challenging. Again, when you're not focused, that leads to poor technique. Again, you're not pushing yourself as much as you could be, even though maybe you feel like mentally you are. So again, we want to make sure we're staying focused during workouts. Another kind of half-assing it thing when it comes to building muscle is not tracking your workouts. So you're just going in, maybe you have a program you follow, but you're just, every time you go in, you're just picking up weights and doing whatever. Again, that's going to be a surefire way to make sure that you're not going to be maximizing your muscle building capacity capabilities. And this isn't to say that you're not going to be like going backwards or you're not going to be building any muscle at all. But again, it may just be slower on top of a process that is already slower. And really the goal here, again, is to keep you to stay consistent over time, because that's really where you're going to see the change here. So again, we're trying to make this process as quick as we can, but understanding that it is a slow process. You're just going in and checking the boxes, right? It's, hey, it says 3 sets of 10. Boom, I'm just getting it done. Hey, I did 3 sets of 10. But then did you stay focused? Did you push yourself? Did you add more weight over time? Or are you just going in and checking the boxes? You're not pushing yourself enough regularly. So you're just going in and each time you leave, you're like, man, I feel like I could have done a little bit more. We all know that feeling. So we want to make sure we're pushing ourselves regularly. And again, this doesn't mean you need to be sweating profusely. You don't need to have this massive pump. You don't need to have your heart rate super high. That's not what I mean. It's, again, pushing yourself regularly is staying focused, maintaining good technique, and continuing to add reps and weight over time. Chasing the burn versus lifting heavy enough. So a lot of times people just go in and they just want to feel that burn. And it's like, hey, that was a good workout. I should see change in my body composition. But we know that when it comes to building muscle, we need to do the things that I already talked about. So that's what I mean by half-assing it from a training perspective. Again, you're probably not losing muscle in this process, but you're not helping yourself be more efficient with it, effective and efficient. And then when it comes to nutrition, so the training, I feel like people can get that dialed in. They can do a good job of dialing that in, but that is super important. We need to make sure that stimulus is there, but that's only part of it. If now maybe you're someone who's like, okay, hey, I'm doing all these things from a training perspective, but now we look at the nutrition side. And if you're someone who's skipping meals regularly, that's going to impact your muscle growth over time. You're just inconsistent around nutrition. Sometimes you're on, sometimes you're off. Again, that's going to slow down the muscle building process. So you're putting in all this work training wise, but if we're not doing anything, we're not managing our nutrition, because, hey, it's like, I'm not losing body fat right now, so I don't care as much, or whatever it may be. But you're going to hurt this process. You're going to slow it down. Or food choices. So it's like, hey, I'm not actively dropping body fat, so I'm just going to eat anything and everything that I want. So again, we need to make sure that we are still making smart food choices during this period of time. Maybe you're not eating enough protein. It's like you think you are, but you look and so I'm actually only eating like 80 grams a day. Again, it's not going to be to where you're going to lose muscle, but you're not maximizing the muscle building process. And when I say maximizing muscle building, it's not that we're trying to get you to be a jack bodybuilder. It's, hey, you're putting in the time. Here's some things that we can do to speed up this process so you see the change. So then you're more likely to want to stick to it and not always just go back to fat loss, and just no focus on nutrition at all. It's like, hey, I'm training. I'm not fat loss dieting. I don't really want to have any focus on nutrition. I'm just going to take a break from it. I'm just going to do what I want there. Again, because that's typically, if you don't have good habits in place, that's typically going to be you being all over the place with your nutrition. Some days it's 2 meals, there's a lot of snacking. Some days it's high protein, some days it's low protein. Some days you're eating around your workouts, which is going to impact your performance. Some days you're eating a little bit higher calories, some days you're eating a little bit low calorie. Again, so it's just all over the place, and that's not going to be great from building muscle. Again, if we're weight training in that process and eating at least enough protein, you're not going to be losing muscle, but you're not going to be adding as much muscle as you could be in that process. And then from a lifestyle perspective, we're not making quality sleep a priority. Again, you're not focused on it. It's just not important to you. Just getting to the gym, though, that, again, you can see that it's like a thing that you know you need to do. It's a instant kind of gratification type thing because you work hard, you feel it. Whereas when it comes to sleep, hey, that you got to make some sacrifices there. You got to go to bed a little bit earlier. You got to stop doing what you're doing. Again, that's a lot harder, but it's super important. If we're same thing here, we could be training super hard. Your nutrition could be pretty good, but if you're not focused on making quality sleep a priority, you're going to be shooting yourself in the foot here. We're going to be making this process a little bit slower. You're always in a fight or flight state. So you're always just in this high sympathetic state where you're always never taking time to downregulate and slow down throughout your day. Again, you don't have to be this person that just meditates all day, but we want to make sure we build some of this kind of slow and go type stuff into our routine, which again, a lot of people listen to this. I feel like that's a challenging thing to do. I think anybody that listens to this podcast is a go-getter. They want to get stuff done. And so again, you're the type of person that would benefit from this the most. You could be pushing your training, doing really well there. Maybe, again, you're eating super clean, but if you're always in this fight or flight, like, you're going to impact your training, you're going to impact your muscle growth at least a little bit. No focus on fatigue management. So for you, and then this kind of comes back to always in fight or flight, you're just always go with training. You always want to try to push it, keep going. So if I take one day off, I'm going to go backwards. If I have 1 week where I maybe a little bit lower with my intensity, I'm going to go backwards. So again, we want to make sure we're focused on fatigue management. And then another lifestyle thing is you just are in a bad environment, whether that be at work, whether that be at home, whatever it may be, or maybe your friends or something like that are not necessarily the most supportive, or from an environment standpoint, it leads toward poor sleep, poor circadian health, high stress, a lot of tasty foods around. You're more likely to skip workouts because you have a lot going on, stress, whatever it may be. So a bad environment will also slow things down as well too. So that's a big thing there with half-assing. That's part of it. The half-assing side of things is a big reason why people don't see the change in their physique, because their results are slower. And anytime results are slower on a already slow process, you're going to get demotivated. And then giving up. So the second half of this is giving up too soon. So this would be like jumping from program to program. So it's like, hey, I've been doing this program for 2 weeks. Oh, I'm already bored. I'm going to jump to the new one. Or, hey, you've been doing one, and now all of a sudden you see a new program that's you think is going to be the thing that's going to speed up your results. So again, you're not sticking to one program. You're just jumping from program to program there. And that's going to impact your muscle growth if you're always changing things up. I don't think you need to keep the same workout for 2 years in a row, but you do need to keep things the same for a little bit to see what works, get some feedback on it, and to allow you to actually progress. And again, you're not ever sticking with anything long enough because you get bored. This comes back to the program hopping, but really anything when it like, hey, you know what? Now I want to work on this now. And so you keep switching it up. So that's the other thing, constantly shifting goals because progress isn't happening overnight. Hey, I want to build muscle. I want to be jacked. And then 4 weeks later, it's like, now I want to add this in. Now I want to do this. Now I have this goal. So if you're always changing, you're going to slow this process down. And then the most common one here is going back to cutting the second the scale goes up by a pound. Or maybe you are doing all these things and now you're not seeing the change you want. So it's like, hey, I need to go to fat loss. So if you're constantly changing up what you're doing, constantly going to a deficit, then back to trying to build, and then back to a deficit after 2 weeks, you're going to slow this process down and you're going to feel like you're just spinning your wheels here despite putting in the work. You obviously care about this if you're doing these things, but that's exactly where you're going to end up. And so you don't need to train 6+ days a week or eat every meal out of Tupperware to build muscle, but you do need patience and intentional effort over time. You have to be patient and have that intentional effort. You don't fail because you're not capable. You fail because you won't commit long enough to see it through and because you just go through the motions more often than not. Maybe for a week or two you push it, but then more times than not, you're just you're just going through the motions. And so just to round this up, I want to go through, here's my muscle building checklist. So it's train with progressive overload. This means doing more over time. And this is going to require you to track and push yourself. We want to train within 0 to 3 reps from failure 95% of the time. And this is going to require you to be focused during your training to really push yourself and to actually get there. We want to hit each muscle group at least 2 times a week and with 5 to 10 sets per muscle group per week. Train mostly in the 5 to 15 rep range. Eat enough protein and avoid extended periods of time in a calorie deficit. If you do those things and you stay consistent with them, you are going to increase the effectiveness and the efficiency at which you build muscle, which is going to should help your physique now. However, as I said, depending on where your current body composition is, it may be a little bit tougher to see that until you run through a fat loss phase. But what we don't want to do is we don't always want to run a fat loss phase because that's going to lead to issues where now you're not going to add any muscle and you're not going to put your metabolism in the best spot overall, which is going to have downstream effects of your health and your physique over time. So we do want to make sure that we're focused on that. But if we do these things, you will see some change in your physique. It's just going to be a little bit slower. And it's going to help you out now. You're going to build habits during this time. It's going to help you out now, but it will also make your future fat loss phases more effective and efficient if we can do this. So that's it for this episode. Hope this all makes sense. If you guys have any questions on it, let me know. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, Jeff, Hoehn. You can ask me questions about the podcast. If you found this podcast to be helpful in any way, if you could leave a rating and review, that'll help more people find it. And then again, lastly, if you are interested in learning more about a body recomp, how to do it, again, the importance of focusing on body composition, different types of body recomp, then my free checklist is for you. And the link to that is in the show notes. So that's it for me. I'll talk to you guys soon.